But this is about talking about another opportunity coming back around, a second chance. A door has opened. A door has opened, or a door is opening. Okay, now we usually do here to pull the romance angels to get a little bit more advice, but already from this reading, it's so interesting how you guys have some similar stuff going on, but it's different, very different, and somebody is clearly avoiding the relationship, avoiding everything because they're clinging onto a comfort zone, and yeah, it's just they're a little bit afraid. They're holding on to something. They know that there's a risk that needs to be taken, but that makes them hold on even more for some weird reason. And the other person here, they know that the success that could come from it, but there is a period of pause. Somebody's, not taking action. Or someone's taking a break, or just not making any progress. And you guys have retreat, time to disconnect from the world. Okay, very interesting. All right, so already from the get-go, there's a new beginning. Obviously, there's an opportunity for things to start over, things to start fresh. Definitely starting this whole relationship off with a big bang, right? And I really feel like for a lot of you guys, or some of you guys here, either are really ready for this opportunity or really scared. And it could be because of somebody that it could be that really how the situation acted, or how it turned out in the past. What happened? What panned out? What went crazy? Or this is about really just stepping outside of your comfort zone, being brave, and allowing things to just kind of play out the way that they're meant to, so you guys can be able to expand in this relationship the best way you can. So we're already looking at this person here. We have the Seven of Swords. And I would say this person is probably thinking about taking a risk with this relationship. They know that there's a risk that's needed to be taken here. There's no guarantee that they're going to be successful in this, but they know that there is a risk that's needed for them to interact with this relationship, or even to even give this relationship a chance. They know that they have to kind of step outside of the comfort zone with this, which is why I was saying that this is not them thinking, okay, now I'm going to take a risk. I don't know. I feel like they may be thinking about it. They may be understanding that the risk has to be done, or the risk needs to be taken in order for them to know if things can really pan out the way they are. And I kind of get this feeling that this person has been avoiding the situation as well, because we have the Four of Coins, and this is something that they needed to do, something personal, some personal development that was needed for them, to understand themselves, things like that. So they've been backing away, they've been, distancing themselves, they've been pulling away, because they need to understand what their values were, what their worth is, get a little bit of a better idea of their own self-value. So this was nothing, it may have been really weird, kind of how everything kind of panned out, but I feel like definitely this person needed the time to step away. But I think also this person is ready, or not ready, but they're looking at the situation, realizing that there are potentially greater things out there. There are other good things that come out of this, out of love, out of taking a risk. There could be. They're looking at their value, they're looking at their worth, and they're recognizing that holding on and keeping themselves distant and separate is not perhaps the best way to go forth, right? So, especially considering that this is completely opposite from the Queen of Wands, as what is showing up in their spiritual energy. They're recognizing that who they were, who they have been, who they are, is completely opposite from all of this. Worried about risk being taken, clinging on to a comfort zone, holding on tight. This person's obviously clearly the Aries here, or clearly a Aries, or an Aries. It doesn't have to be you, Aries, though, but this person is definitely holding back, possibly because of an Aries, right? And I don't think that's, I don't think it's because they're worried about you blasting them, which you could be ready to just light their behinds on fire, or you could be that you are passionate and you're ready and you're open, and they're not quite sure if they're ready and open and courageous enough to take that leap to go about going for it. At the same time, this could just be them, right? They could identify themselves as the Queen of Wands. Maybe they believe that they were fearless, they were open, they were courageous at one point, and now they're scared, they're worried, they're not open to taking risks, they're not open to taking a risk. But they have to, in order for there to be development in this relationship, or in order for this burden to finally be put down, and for there to be, a connection that does have the potential to grow and grow magnificently, especially considering that you guys have had this history with each other. There has been something very similar to this in the past where this has happened, right? Where you can learn from that experience and do something differently for this experience, coming around. Now, the other person is showing up as this, showing up with the mental space being the Six of Wands, and that's telling me this person sees this relationship as a success. They've put in a lot of work and they're very proud of the work that they put in this relationship. Now, I feel like, too, this person feels like they are, they may not be, no, I don't think that's the case. I feel like they do recognize the work that they put into the connection. They realize the work that they put into the relationship. They have a lot of pride here, though. I think this person's very prideful, not in a bad way per se, but I think this person's prideful and they let their success and their ego kind of stand in the way. And, and there's nothing wrong with pride as long as it doesn't, as long as it keeps you moving forward, as long as it opens, opens your horizons, as long as you still have your horizons open to learning and new things. And I think this person is, but what's interesting about having the Six of Wands here in the mind space, like seeing the relationship as a success, worth the effort, doing things that, of course, show that the relationship is growing stronger due to the effort that this person's put in. They've got the Four of Swords, so they're not doing anything. They're stagnant. They're not taking action. And it's not because they don't want to. It looks like they do with the Tower being in the foundation or being in the spiritual plane. But with the Four of Swords, it's like they are on pause, and it's because, and they need to take some time out to reflect. They need to take some time out to look within themselves. This is time of rest, time of period, time of relaxing or healing from a situation. And because of a Tower, something happened unexpectedly. They were proud of everything happening. Everything was going great. Then, they're not making any moves because some serious change. Someone altered the course of the relationship. Somebody altered the course of something. So therefore, this person's not taking action. That's what it looks like to me. At the same time, it could be that this person is chilling, just not taking any action at this moment because the changes needed to have already been made. The changes that were needed have already been implemented, so there's nothing needed to do other than to rest. And this person is doing, obviously following the Romance Angels card here, which is retreat, time to separate yourself from the world. And this person's definitely doing that with this energy, with this Four of Swords card, taking a break, taking a rest. But it's so interesting that both parties here are, have a card of action here regarding their foundation. So things have happened which caused them to to feel and think the way that they do, or to be and think the way they have here as displayed. And with the Four of Coins here and the Four of Swords is being so interesting. They're both stagnant energies. They're both energies that don't move. They're both, they're not stagnant, but they're fours, which means that they're fixed, they're stable, they don't move, they're solid, they're foundational. So I feel like regarding this relationship, everybody's kind of trying to connect with the self again. This person especially, I think they realize that there's a risk being taken, and what they're realizing is that they're not their old self. They're not who they used to be. They're not who they usually are, which is fearless, risk junkies. They do things. The Queen of Wands will take risks if need be, if it's what she wants to do. And I feel like I think there is something this person wants, but they're realizing that this is something that's, they're gonna have to step out of their comfort zone in order for it to happen. In order for things to go, in the way that they want it to go, they have to do it. They have to take action, and that is a risk because it may not turn out the way that they want it to. So what brought you two together was justice. That's telling me right there that there was a balance between you and this person. You and this person definitely worked together in a way that worked. And I think, honestly, what justice is telling me more is how you guys may not be together at this moment. Why this reading is coming up, period. Not that you guys aren't together, because I think some of you guys are. I think some of you guys may be separate. Some of you guys may be together. But the challenges that you're actually facing are two cards now, not just the justice card. Because I think when you guys came into each other's lives, you already had a dynamic of yourself that wasn't balanced. The other person allowed you to see the part of yourself that needed balancing. And I think that the burden now is that you have a role in the relationship that you guys can no longer play, because maybe you've already, you've found out what you needed to balance for yourself, and you're doing that, and therefore you don't need the other person to hold up that role anymore, so you can be able to do your temperance thing and moderation, and have that harmony within yourself to keep your 50% going. You know what I'm saying? Because we don't need somebody to do the dishes, clean the house while somebody goes to work and tends to the bills. I think everybody can do a piece of everything, but their own stuff, and that could keep everything balanced, keep everything afloat, keep everything that's overbearing for one person, from feeling suffocated. But I also feel like, this is about an emotional balance too. Like I think that both parties needed something to kind of go by as reference as to what they needed to balance themselves. And I think that both parties honestly came into this relationship without forgiving their pasts. And I know that that's weird, right? Like, why would you say that? Because there's no cards in here that would reference the past. But to be honest, justice does talk about forgiveness. It talks about amending a situation. Injustice could be that you guys came in with an imbalance, really meaning that you guys came in with something that wasn't corrected, something that wasn't straightened out, something that wasn't, forgiven. There was a grudge perhaps going into it, and therefore it affected the relationship, which is why you have the Ten of Wands here. But justice can also indicate that you guys may have gotten back together to apologize, to create, to make amends to the past, and see if there is a potential for something new. But the struggle now is letting go of the burden that the past had, or what you guys have go through this process, which could be grudges, maybe disappointments, whatever. There's some pride here, or there's some sort of resistance to dropping the burden, because they're still holding on to something that doesn't serve them at this moment, right? There's a new opportunity here, but the Ten of Wands is the challenge. Letting go and opening up to new things, that's a hard thing. It's hard, but it's not impossible. And I think that's the part that needs to be emphasized more, right? It was like, oh, it's so hard, but it's not impossible. You can move forward. You can create a new, you can have greatness in your life, but that's when you truly and utterly believe it and allow yourself to embrace a new experience fully, and not hold on to this past, thinking that maybe it'll happen, because it's setting that intention in the air, saying that you don't truly trust that you'll have a wonderful relationship with somebody, or you don't believe that something will work out, and that setting that intention will make sure it is so. So you got to be careful, right? So you guys have expressed love through gifts, and it says give a small token to someone. Giving a small token to someone expresses your love to them. And I think that's very interesting, because you don't actually have to go out of your way to actually physically buy a gift, and that's not really what the card is saying. Like, I mean, a gift is something that someone sees and can cherish. It can be literally spending time with someone. It can be loving on them, and experiencing something with this person, talking with them, because people see gifts as very different things. And I don't know if some of you guys have read the book, or have learned about or heard of the 5 languages of love, but they talk about that, right? Because there's people that do love gifts. They love the people that do them favors, right? Doing chores and tending to things for them, or spending time with them, being written letters, things like that, right? People see gifts as so many different things. And I think the way that you show that you love them, and by caring and care for them, is by doing the things that honestly apply to their love language, if that makes sense. If this person doesn't like jewelry, but they love hearing music, and they love a certain band or whatever, or and they love this certain thing, and they love spending time with you, that may be the thing. The thing is, the gift that you may want to give them is something that requires you to go out to a concert with them, or go out to a concert with those people that they love, right? But be careful with that card kind of message, because you don't want to bribe them to love you. You don't want to bribe anyone you don't want to bribe somebody. You can express their love, you can express your love in a way that doesn't show that you want something back. And I think that's the biggest thing. But the thing is here with express love through gifts is by showing that you care, by giving of yourself. Mostly, you give of yourself when you give a gift. Well, you give of yourself when you show love. And this is one of those things. Give of yourself right now without expectations, without wanting something in return. And it's hard to do for a lot of people because they always think, okay, well, tit for tat. Well, this is not a tit for tat situation, especially if you love this person. If you truly love them, you can give them love without having to receive it in return. And it's hard to do, but it's possible. That's why this person is hung up here, because they feel like if I go out of my way and I get rejected, then I'm left with nothing. That's not true. You still have that love. You still have that love. If that person can't give it back to you, that doesn't mean that you don't have love. You always have love. But you just don't have you just don't have their affections for you at the moment, right? You just don't have them at this moment. And it doesn't mean that you can't have it eventually, and it doesn't mean that you'll never have it. But it does talk about realizing that the situation calls for unconditional love, unconditional expression. Love on the person without having to expect something back. Super hard to do, but I totally believe it's possible and definitely able to do it. Aquarius does it every day, okay?